So changing the subject, but I'm very interested. You have a degree in engineering. You ended up doing actual physical work, putting up cell phone towers, and now you're running, a fund where you can talk about your buddy that invested $100 million into a deal. So you're at a certain echelon of society. I've started watching this YouTube channel called the Soft White Underbelly, which is this photographer that interviews people at the very bottom of society, people like prostitutes and guys that are addicted to crack cocaine and living on the streets. And I look at that juxtaposition, and I think that somebody like you probably has an interesting view because you were a worker, did stuff with your hands. What do you think needs to be done in order to bridge the massive divide between the two worlds that we're talking about here?
It's a good question. And I'll tell you how I'm doing my part. So I was at a YPO event, a guy named Danny Ludeman, who was the CEO of Wells Fargo Advisors, retired. And he did his halftime sort of review of his life, and his success to significance was Concordance Academy. And as a venture guy, he talked to our group as potential investors in a metrics-driven solution to recidivism. And if you look at the underserved, it perpetuates itself in a big way because of the prison cycle. So if you go to the inner city, you got people without dads and moms in some cases. A lot of women go to prison too. People don't know that. And I don't know about you, but if you grew up without any parents and no one telling you to go to school, probably wouldn't have gone to school.
Oh, if I didn't have my dad, I would have been completely unruly. There would have been no stopping me. I would have been completely wild.
I was bad anyway, and I had to. So you look at what's going on, these people typically have an addiction problem. 93% of incarcerated people actually committed to crime while under the influence of drugs or alcohol, or both. So there's an addiction problem. Usually that happens to people because of a lack of purpose. There's a void. They don't know what to do with themselves. They have no direction. They don't have people saying, you ought to go get a CDL and be a truck driver. There's a shortage of truck drivers in this country. You can make $130,000 a year. Why somebody's not going into the inner city? And I'm like, this is crazy. You got all these unemployed people. And Rankin is a local trade school here. They've tried to reach out to the community and say, here's a 6-week course and you can make $130,000 a year. They can't get anyone to take it. They have sponsorships so you can take it free, and people won't take it. It's like, you can drive around, see the country, and make $130,000 a year. People won't take it. But anyway, so Concordance, Danny hooked me. I've gotten a bunch of my friends involved because they're attacking, it's a holistic approach to attacking the chemical dependency, the problems that you typically have when you get out. People don't realize this, but when you come out of prison, you got all the bill collectors, all the garnishments, all the other, lawsuits against you. A lot of times you come out and then they pick you up because you got an outstanding warrant because you're in prison by the time, it's awful. So these people come out and they got no help. So they all go back, 97% of them go back to prison within 5 years. You're recycling prisoners. But what people don't understand is it costs us taxpayers $103,000 a year to incarcerate a prisoner. But it's a lot bigger. I think it's $1 trillion problem. Opportunity. It's $1 trillion opportunity for investors. Because if you stop the cycle, we've cut recidivism 50% in the last 5 years from everyone that's gone through the program. 50%. So if you just do the math on perpetuity, if it's $103,000 a year, then it's $1 million lifetime at a 10% discount. So it's $1 million problem. If we could stop 50%, we're saving $500,000 per life So the return on the investment, you can see how the numbers can get pretty big. But then they commit an average of 7 crimes within 3 years to go back to prison. That's breaking into your house. That's breaking into my car. That's rape. That's, going into a convenience store and robbing the convenience store. So the social impact of all those 7 crimes has some number that we're working on calculating, get an average number. If you stop the 7 crimes, that's better for you and me. Forget about just $103,000 a year that we have to spend to incarcerate. Now we get economic benefit out of it because I don't have to go fix my window that they broke. Now you get into the soft dollars. What happens if the boy has a dad? The dad's not in prison. What if the boy's actually got somebody at home saying, hey, boy, go to school? And the guy's got a job. Well, how do you solve that? Schnooks, bunch of different corporate sponsors of this program have created job training and placement. So they get out of prison, they get trained on a job, and then they go to work. So now they're actually earning an income. So there's a reason not to go to prison because they have a better life out of prison with money. But you're also showing your kid, get a job, go to work, go to school to learn how to get a job.
Yes, St. Louis has a really interesting program, the Father Support System or Support Network, and like their premise, it was fascinating. The idea, and like once you become, like I recently became a parent. Once you realize, like, hey, if you don't know what you're doing and nobody taught you how to be a parent, it would be really hard to do that. And particularly if you're coming from having struggled, like when I first saw that place, I thought this is neat. And now as a father, I'm like, that is very important. I would recommend, if you have not watched this Soft White Underbelly YouTube program, it is maybe the most mesmerizing thing I've seen in the last 5 years, because it really was a humbling thing for me to watch. And it's why I'm prompted to ask you, because I realized my life was an Andy Griffith 1950s upbringing, and you're talking about people that found their mother dead from an overdose at 8 years old and then got put into a foster system. And you think, like, if I hold them to the same standard that I hold my buddy Travis Liebig to getting stuff done, it's not fair. And so we've got to figure out things to lift people up, because not only the money side of it, but just you see the pain on these people. Like you hear them talk about, I don't want to be addicted to crack. I just can't stop. And if I have such a pull, if I did hard drugs even one time, I'd be gone. So I can't judge them in that way.
Well, you just named the 2 biggest problems. It's chemical dependency and no family. Those are the driving problems behind everything going on with that part of society. Because if you have no parents, you have no no one's going to care about you like your parents. And if they're not there, or if they're chemically dependent, I mean, come on, you don't have a chance, and it perpetuates it. And unfortunately, our government has encouraged the behavior.
Thanks for checking out this podcast short. If you like this interview, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and hit that bell so you always get notified about this podcast. And if you're really interested in conversations like this, you may want to consider joining the Articulate Ventures Network. To find out more, go to network.articulate.ventures.